So, yesterday we had talked about how the U.S. had sort of basically sailed in unchallenged into Manila Bay and completely blown apart the Spanish fleet. So, that was on May the 1st. Not a lot happens after that in the Philippines. So, it's important here to remember. I think I brought this up yesterday, but I'm going to bring it back up again today or introduce it if I didn't yesterday. The U.S. was not looking to take over the Philippines. What it was really looking to do, so the Philippines is an island archipelago. There's like 4,000 islands or something in it. They wanted a couple of like small islands and Manila. That's all they wanted. When they brought the Filipino rebels back, the Filipino rebels, like the rebel leaders, blended right back in and they got the people riled up and the Filipino uprising and revolt against the Spanish kicked back in. The Americans really didn't have to do very much. So over the next few months, the Americans just basically brought in soldiers and kind of just let the Filipinos and the Spanish duke it out with each other. What the Americans were really looking to do was figure out a way to get Spain to turn over a few islands and Manila so that we would have an access base in the Pacific, just essentially like Hong Kong was for the British in China. So, a couple of things that come up. Number one, the Europeans and the other major powers in Asia, I should say, were a little bit taken aback at the degree to which America beat down the Spanish and the concern that they had regarding the ongoing revolt of the Filipino people against the Spanish. So, to that end, France, Germany, England, and Japan all sent naval squadrons into Manila to sort of maintain order and make sure that their own country's interests in the Philippines were not being, um, you know, uh, not that whatever things that their countries were involved with in the Philippines were being adequately cared for, shall we say. Now, this is pretty much fine for France, England, and Japan because they're respectful to the Americans. We got no problems. We're all just kind of like, okay. Germany, on the other hand, is being really kind of toolish about this. And here's the thing to understand about Germany. The Germans were looking to take the Philippines over. They really wanted to expand their own Pacific possessions. And what they were hoping to do was stir the pot up enough between America and Spain that between the Americans, the Filipinos, and the Spanish all fighting, that Germany could just basically waltz in and take it over. To that end, they were exceedingly disrespectful to the Americans, and they also began bringing supplies in for the Spanish army there in an effort to sort of like encourage them to keep fighting. The U.S. did not take kindly to this, and after some not necessarily overly serious incidents, but after um, some uncomfortable encounters, um, America actually contacted Germany directly and threatened to declare war on Germany if the Germans didn't just give it up. And so the Germans did give up. The important thing about this, though, to understand, is that this action on the part of Germany really does set up what happens to the Philippines. And it also, unfortunately, sets up a very bad trend of the Germans over the next 10 years of really seriously pushing the envelope about wanting a war. To the point that when we get into like 1907, 1908, the Germans actually, on two or three other occasions, deliberately attempted to start a war because they were looking to fight. Which, of course, they will get their wish in less than 20 years when World War I breaks out. Now, the real problem here for America is in regards to the Spanish. The Spanish are fighting the Filipinos. They don't want to fight the Filipinos. What they want to do is just they want to be done with this. but they don't want to surrender to the Filipinos. So instead, the American army and the Spanish army sort of come to an agreement that they're going to stage a fake battle. On August the 13th, the day that Puerto Rico is going to be turned over to America, the American and Spanish forces in Manila are going to fight. And in the end, America will win, and Spain will turn over and surrender to America with dignity and with pride, knowing that they've done their best. And the best thing is that nobody's going to get hurt. How's a fight going to result in nobody gets hurt? Because the fight's going to be fake. It's essentially going to be fought with blanks. That's fake bullets. And people are going to pretend to be injured and they're going to pretend to die and everything else, but nobody's really going to get hurt. So when the morning of the 13th arrives, everything's going according to plan until all of a sudden the Filipinos show up and start shooting real bullets. And the Spanish are like, whoa, what the heck is going on? And the Americans are like, whoa, what the heck is going on? See, here's the thing. Nobody bothered to tell the Filipinos that the battle wasn't real. So they came in fighting on behalf of America and to get out the Spanish. This really kind of made things awkward and uncomfortable. What makes it even more awkward and uncomfortable is that the United States won't even allow the Filipino soldiers to enter Manila as part of the surrender ceremony. So they can't even enter their own capital city. This does not sit well with the Filipinos. And on the flip side, the Filipinos had declared independence in early June to establish the new Democratic Republic of the Philippines. That didn't sit well with America because they didn't want an independent Philippines. What America wanted was to get Manila, a few small islands, then basically give Spain back the Philippines to figure out what they wanted to do with it. So this creates a whole nother problem. Now, one last little issue I want to go over here. And that is my personal favorite, the Battle of Guam. On June the 20th, so a month and a half after we take Manila, the U.S. decided to deal with Spain's last possession in the area, the island of Guam. We sent a battle cruiser and 3 troop transports to Guam. We arrive at Guam, we see the Spanish fort, we shoot at it. Nothing happens. We wait. Nothing happens. A little while later, we see like a rowboat coming out. And Spanish guy comes over. They let down the ladder. He climbs on board the ship. And he's like, hey, what's going on, Americanos? Good to see you guys. And the Americans are like, we shot at you. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry we didn't shoot back. We wanted to say hi, too, because the Spanish thought the Americans were saying hi by shooting. But they're like, we got no gunpowder. We got no bullets either. And America's like, what? And the Spanish guy's like, yeah, so what can we do for you guys? And the Americans are like, well, we're here because we're at war. And the Spanish is like, what? See, apparently Spain never bothered to tell Guam that there was a war going on, nor did they bother to restock them with anything. So then the Spanish are like, what do you want us to do? And America's like, well, you could surrender. So the Spanish are like, okay, and they do. All 54 Spanish soldiers on Guam are taken prisoner and transported to a camp. Now, the Americans are trying to figure out what to do with Guam when, coincidentally enough, there is one American tourist on Guam who is there because he has bad health and the tropical environment is good for him. That one American is put in charge and basically made like the emperor of Guam until America is officially ready to do something and take possession of it a few months later. That's the end of the Battle of Guam. Peace and love.